do to solve the sediment problem in the river depends on what the sources are. We know that the dominant sources today are these non-field sources, and we have to know what's driving that change. And what that is we have higher flows in our rivers today than we did in the past for a given amount of precipitation. And those higher flows are causing the rivers to adjust their channel width, and they're eroding more into their banks, and that is affecting the sediment load. And so if we're going to correct that problem, we've got to address the source, which is too much water in the rivers, and what has changed that and what we can do to fix that. In other places in the watershed, certain tributaries and so on, we still have a substantial part of the sediment load which is coming from field erosion. And so we can use management practices like buffer strips and minimum and no-till agriculture and so on that would help reduce field erosion. But that's not going to help us in areas where we have a substantial amount of the sediment is coming from banks and bluffs and ravines. Well, it will depend on what part of the watershed you're looking at. And some tributaries to the Minnesota and upper Mississippi River still have a good portion of the sediment is coming from field erosion. But in other places, such as the middle Minnesota River, where we have the Blue Earth and the Minnesota River coming in, by far the dominant source of that sediment is the non-field sources. The question is, what do we do about it depends on what's driving the problem. And this, as we've determined, is we've increased the flow of water in the rivers. The river channels are eroding more rapidly because we're putting more water in the rivers themselves, and the rivers are adjusting to that flow. So if we're going to ultimately address that source of sediment, what we have to do is address why there's more water in the river today, why we have higher flows than we did in the past, given the same climate effectively. And that's what we're going to have to fix if we're going to fix that source of sediment.